cost me nothing because he's a sponsor.
Or on YouTube, exclusively on that. Put Eddie's picture up there.
My
In
picture
there.
is up there.
Yeah, we got Eddie. We got Eddie George live from his complex over there in HEMET on there. And you didn't know this, but we fire off YouTube first, and when Stephanie's in, we have makeup with Stephanie. So since you're in here, you'll have to do the makeup with Stephanie segment.
Oh, I
On
can see Stephanie. Did I do my hair right?
yes,
How
your
does she
hair
do her
looks
hair?
fine. You're on that.
Here we go.
We're gonna try this on that. We're gonna fire up on get everything lit up here on that whole system. Jam packed show today, along with Eddie George of HEMET News. Well, I got my mouth full talking. We're gonna have Dr. Kelly Victory on at the bottom of the hour. Lots of stuff coming on that. She'll update you with facts, not fears, on COVID-19. Here we go. There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every day live at 5 as we bring you in on IE Newswire Daily, where we bring you all the news, not only the news that you're hearing, but the news that you don't hear anywhere else, all across the board. Of course, we've had the COVID-19 interesting stuff that was shown, as you've seen on IE Newswire. New York Governor Cuomo, who is ground zero for where COVID virus 19 is breaking out. We had Governor Newsom. He had some interesting stuff to say. And, of course, Donald Trump with his inimitable style that only he can do on a press conference. Like I said, number 45, Donald J. Trump's been the most entertaining president we've had of them all. No matter what you think of him, up, down, sideways, in between, anything else. There's nobody that can hold an audience that's been president like Donald J. Trump. But we're going to bring him up. We're going to try this. We got him hopefully live on video that we're going to bring him in. Here's another guy that's just one heck of a character and why we have him on. It's that crazy guy with the lazy eye from HEMET News, Eddie George. Welcome to the show.
Where? I don't see that. Oh, me? You talking about me again?
What's up, Roy?
How you doing? How's it going out there?
Absolutely fantastic. Man, we had, the breaking news story that busted this morning in the Inland Empire. Riverside County Sheriff's deputy passed away from complications of coronavirus. He was assigned to the Larry Smith jail down in Murrieta on that. Just and it's a tragedy on anybody that loses their life from anything. But we were talking a little bit before the show on this stuff. I just want to get your gut overall feeling of what you think's going on with this whole COVID-19 coronavirus thing, from when it started, when we first heard about it in China, to the flight coming in from China to Ontario that got diverted to March a couple months ago, and then everything else that's happened. Just what's your gut feel on this whole thing?
Do you really want my gut feeling on it?
Well, no, I just asked you that just because I'm trying to blow air out of my lungs.
Right, exactly. My gut feeling is I smell something fishy in this virus. I don't think this virus is no accident. It's kind of weird how many people we have in the United States, how many deaths have we had already because of this coronavirus, but how many people in China they have, and how many deaths they have. Can you give me those numbers, Roy?
Yeah, I would. What did they say? Like 10,000 or 20 or whatever the number. I wouldn't trust the numbers out of China if they said it was 1 to 100 million. I mean,
right.
We're not going to get the truth out of China. I think it's up to close to 10,000 out of Italy, where it was the next epicenter. Which the numbers you could buy there of that, but it's just like that. And one thing that really touched this off was the Professor Neil Ferguson study. out of Britain that predicted 2.2 million could die in the United States and 500,000 in Britain over that. And then he revises those figures down to Britain to 20,000 by a factor of 25, which is a factor of 25. So if you extrapolate that to the new United States, that's less than 80 or 88, 89, 90,000 of whatever on this, which is not a big deal. But again, like they said, they've come out with these wild numbers and predictions and models and stuff of all this stuff, and then as they usually do, they're backing them way down. And it even concerns me that Trump keeps bringing in, well, 2.2 million could have died, when today Governor Mario Cuomo said, the death rate is slowing, although we think we're going to see a peak in hospitalizations. But the other day he said ICU unit admissions were going down, we're trending down on the deal. So, we're getting these mixed signals across the board on that. And then I pointed to the curve of how in our where this is breaking out is in this densely populated area in New York. What is there in the greater metro New York to New Jersey area? There's like 10 million people in 5 square miles, and this is going on, and it's breaking out in that. Yeah, if something's going on in a densely populated area like a virus, yeah, I'll get it out. Yeah, it's going to spread quickly or whatever, da-da-da-da. But even so, even the massive stuff they've been predicting in New York has been pruning down. And this flattening the curve, and it's not going up in the U.S. or something, or like the Washington deal, where they had the 24 die in the nursing home. Well, all 24 of them, in my reports have had, is said they were all under the hospice care in the nursing home, which meant they were going to die of something very soon anyway of doing this, and just on and on and on. Again, I just get a bad feeling about everything. The L.A. sheriff trying to just insisting that he's going to close down the gun stores as they're on, non-essential businesses, and just the whole rang of the thing just does not set right with me.
It's your Second Amendment right. That is essential.
Yes.
First and Second Amendment. Yeah, it's Roy. Like I say, I smell fish in this. I believe, like I say, my gut feeling. I mean, everybody's got one, but I think this is biochemical warfare. I mean, it's just there's just too much fishy stuff in this, and it's you say China's only reporting 5 deaths.
No, it's Taiwan. Taiwan, which is right next to them and has had this epidemic since late last year, because they have millions of people that go from Taiwan to China to work every day. They're right next to each other. Taiwan has 20 million people, and they've had like 5 deaths. And just the other day, they said recommendation of social distancing, maybe 3 feet if you're outside, 4.5 inside. Again, why is it not break? Why didn't it just spread like crazy in Taiwan and not in that? And just on the conspiracy theory, I went through it with Stephanie a little bit yesterday. And I've heard the reports about the 5G network, which is a new network for the cell towers. It's supposed to be much greater, faster, download your stuff real quickly. You guess what city do you think in the whole world was the most wired and first wired city on 5G?
Tell me.
Wuhan, China.
Sorry about who?
Wuhan, China.
There you go.
With all the face recognition and the stuff, and then you hear about these reports. Now, again, like I've said, I've tried to stay off the conspiracy theories, this, that, and the other stuff is going on. But again, I'm just getting it every day. It's just like Trump. Trump Friday said, we're going to start opening, we're looking at open the country on Easter Sunday, the 12th. Then he comes on Sunday, was April 30th. Then yesterday, Pence is hinting that this thing could go on till June, whatever. I mean, I don't know. Every day it just seems like it just seems like they just keep turning the heat up on us on the stove and we're the boiling frog.
Absolutely. And I swear, if this person don't quit calling me, I'm going to throw this phone out the daggone door.
Well, maybe we should all be doing that.
Right?
I've said these cell phones are going to be the death of all of us, and I'm even becoming more convinced of that.
I don't know who they were, but I just blocked their calls.
But I mean, what do you think? Am I starting to go crazy, or do I really am I really joining the tinfoil hat brigade, or what?
I think we both. Can you email me that hat so I can wear it? Because I think we both are going to really.
We're going to get you in studio, and we're gonna make one for you so you can wear it.
I know, right? Email it to me.
Yes.
Now, talk about China. I want to tell you something, Roy.
Go ahead.
You know the toilet paper deal, right?
Yes.
I actually found out just a minute ago where this was actually ordered at, and I'm going to pull this up here. Let's see. I just took a screenshot of it. Well, I thought I did. Gummit, I get too much info coming in at once.
You're like me. You got to shut that stuff off because it'll drive you freaking. At least it does me. It drives me insane.
I know for a fact that I screenshotted this, but it's not showing me. Wait till I don't want it, I'll find it. But I'll put the link. I think it's some website. It don't tell you where you're getting the stuff at. And it's just, hey, we got big deals and bargains, right? So when all the toilet paper was being hard to find, one of my news reporters, Tanya Blackwolf, and if I swear if that's the same person again, I'm throw that phone out. But anyways, hold on a second. I am live on the radio. I can't talk right now. Call back in 15. Thank you. All right. Anyways, this is the United States mega roll, folks. You see how big this is right here. That's considered a mega roll. All right. She paid $25 shipping and everything. Thought she was getting a good deal of 12 mega rolls of toilet paper for $25. You know, this is what she gets in the mail, folks. Look at that. Can you compare that?
Yes.
This is a brand new roll. This ain't open. I mean, look. I'm going to open it right now. See, it's still. Look at that. You know how you got to open your toilet paper?
Yes, you got to get that. Yeah, they glue it together so good. You got to rip 3 rolls, three.
You got to use half of it just to get it out.
Yes. Doesn't that drive you freaking insane?
This is ridiculous, Roy. Made in China. Even their toilet paper don't last long. Why? They rip your ass off.
You bring up a point, and I swear that the tinfoil hats, we must be reading our minds. Because let me take you back to, when this first started getting serious what was it, a couple months ago? There you go. Yeah, look at how we're getting ripped. And we've been getting ripped like this for decades by China. What Trump's saying has been exactly right. And he said it. We put up the tweet he had in 2013 before he was president or campaigning or anything else, saying, watch the hell out for what China's doing. And Eddie's putting a perfect example. And like I say, take you all back a couple months ago when it started getting serious. And Trump, first thing he did was ban the travel to China. And everybody said, racist.
Wait, can I stop you real quick, Roy? Here's another way how they're screwing you over. Not as it's smaller this way, but if you measure it, look at that. It's not even as wide.
You're getting cheated on inches.
They cheat you coming and going. Wow, man. I'm sorry. I had to throw that out there.
Yes, no, and that's a great illustration for what I'm saying. And Trump's renegotiated the trade deals, the NAFTA and GATT and stuff, because he knows we've been getting screwed for decades. But what I want to say to all y'all that were out there calling Trump a racist for banning that or saying China virus or anything else, none other than Governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, said today, and you can go watch the press conference on HEMET iNews. I posted it there. It's on IE Newswire Daily. And he said it is insane that we are dependent on China for everything. We got to get ventilators. Are expensive, $25,000 a piece. Masks, gowns, everything else we're getting from China, China, China. He said this is insane. Now, these are the same
Why do you
folks.
think China's stock market's going sky high and ours is going down?
Yes. We are so dependent, and the military guy that's doing the logistics on the press conference today, which you can hear it on HEMET News or IE Newswire Daily. I posted it both places. The Trump press conference. Go look at the military guy that's doing all the logistics or coordinating all this stuff coming on and saying, we got to start manufacturing stuff back here because we are too dependent on this stuff from China and everywhere else. If we get a real major crisis, he was hinting that we would be in real major trouble if we don't turn this thing around.
And I agree with you. I mean, we should keep it in the U.S., homegrown and homemade, home shop and everything. I mean, we don't need that China stuff. They can keep that in their virus. And that's my opinion. I'm not being racist either. I'm just being, realistic. I tell it like it is. It's.
Yes, and you are, and it is. But I want, as we go further through this stuff, everyone, and I want to emphasize it, everyone that was been calling Trump a racist over this China, or you don't know what you're talking about, or we're not getting ripped off for the Chinese, or we want da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Look at what's happening now. Do you really like living where you basically cannot come out of your house because you're dependent on somebody else or somebody overseas for providing this stuff for you? Or if they get pissed off about something, well, look what we're going to give you.
That's right. And what did you hear? There was an article put out somewhere that there was a bunch of the coronavirus tests that came from China that actually contained the coronavirus. Did you hear about that?
I haven't heard about that, but it would not, at this juncture, it would not surprise me.
And like, well, if they don't have it, we'll make sure we give it to them.
I mean, again, I'm getting an ever increasingly bad feeling about it. It's not like, I mean, it's like you're not seeing any light at the end of the tunnel. Or, okay, we done that. Any pandemic, virus, cold season from the very low grade or very less lethal, dangerous virus, the common cold, to something like Ebola, always runs a course.
That's right.
And this thing, they keep moving the targets back or da-da-da-da-da on this stuff. And again, for what purpose? I don't,
People are looking this way. They're only looking at what the government's telling you to know. But see, I got that lazy eye. I'm looking around the corner trying to find the bullshit in all this. And I'm like you, I have that gut feeling. There's a lot of fishy stuff in this, and the government's doing a lot of stuff that they don't want us to know about. And I mean, tomorrow, like you and I said, I can't release what we know right now, but just look out tomorrow. There may be some big changes happening. Just so that's all I can say right now until we get more information tomorrow.
Yeah, you don't. Again, it's like a bad feeling, bad something or other going on every day on this stuff, and again, it's like they just keep sucking us in a little bit deeper on that, and that's
right.
What's kind of concerned me is how do I want to put this? How it seems to me so easily the vast majority of Americans are not questioning this stuff as much, or asking why is this going on, or even being afraid to ask the questions that should be asked in this stuff, instead of just hunkering down and like, oh, we're all scared, please protect us.
America, wake the hell up and smell the coffee before I drink it all, because it's going to be gone. And this stuff ain't even, this epidemic, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, it's only beginning, folks. It's not even started yet. Everybody's in a panic now. This stuff's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, if it gets better.
Yeah, can you imagine if they're shutting down supply lines or people's incomes and all this for till summertime or June or July or August or something like that? Now, they said the 14-day or even 30 days on the outside edge of what they're doing, or basically, or vastly. I mean, you're taking like, okay, the American economy was going in 6-gear overdrive. We were doing 150 miles an hour, probably the best we've ever done. And I mean, this is like we've like cut it down to like 30 miles an hour, just like that. Now,
sure, you had emergency brake, which you did.
yeah, and not emergency brake. I mean, you let off the gas, you stomped on the brakes, you're downshifting on this deal, like right now, like there's and this has what I've said, and people want, oh, we're afraid of saving lives. Da, da, da. Like I said, look at the long term effect of this. Okay, even if you lose, which you were probably going to lose, you do every year. You lose 40,000 people a year average in car accidents. You lose 40,000 people a year to the flu virus. It happens. It has happened. It will happen. It always will happen. We're all going to die of something. That's just the cold, hard truth of this stuff. Now, what we got to do is...
Good God, I ain't worried about it.
Yes.
I know where I'm going.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is we got to look at what is the effect of this. If we wreck our economy, we have life expectancy, health care, cars, homes, everything else, because we built the strongest economy that in recorded history. And that's what allows you to live the quality of life you live now. Look at just a scant 50 years ago, your life expectancy was about 59, 60 years instead of 80 years. And that has basically been built on our economic might that we've been built since World War II. And you take that away, okay, look what's going to happen if we go back to a society that can't deal with this, because it takes green dollar bills to build medical facilities, to have doctors come and cares and ventilators and gowns and everything else. If you don't have them, more people are going to die in the future if you kill this economy like we're doing, or we suffer. I mean, some of the statistics I'm looking at are like Goldman Sachs put out last week. The next quarter on gross domestic product is supposed to be down 24%. That wasn't even seen in the great crash of the 20s in the Depression era.
Right. That's why I say this is going to be the worst, Roy.
I mean, it has the potential if we keep playing. And if they keep playing, what gets me is they keep playing on everybody's fears. And even Trump's doing it, Newsom's doing it, Cuomo's doing it. I mean, they keep putting them nuggets of truth out there of that, but then they come back with the fear-mongering of the Newsom with 1 million deaths, 25 million. Well, yeah, 25 million people in California may get that. And as Dr. Kelly Victory, which will be on in a few minutes, has said, that's a good thing because it built the more people that get it, and as they said, 80 to 90% suffer mild symptoms of this. That builds the immunity up to it. Then that's how you kill the viruses and stuff of getting that, so you don't get it back again. Or that, like Stephanie talked about, the old chicken pox parties where you got the chicken pox as a kid because you certainly don't want to get that as an adult. Because it will, as a kid, you have it. Yeah, you have the funny spots on you for a couple weeks, but you're immune to it. You will never get it again. But if you get that as an adult, you will not know what pain is like if you suffer that. So, do you take that medicine early and get it over with, or do you just run and hide or run from it and then take the potentially that it really will kill you or knock you down for the count if you get it as an adult? And I think that's how we should start looking. That's how the conversation should be going on this whole thing. Instead of put the information and honest facts amongst all of us and let us all come to a collective judgment on what the best ways to proceed. Not this cloak and dagger stuff.
Yep. And there also a new update on this coronavirus too, on the precautions a lot of people don't think is when you're out walking, people sneezing, it falls down to the ground, people spitting on sidewalks and parking lots. You're walking in on your shoes. You come home. You don't take your shoes off at home. Walk in the house. Now you're tracking it in your house and bringing it into your family. So now they're trying to recommend everybody when you're out in public, either, have 2 different pairs of shoes in and out, or make sure you take your shoes off before you come in your home.
I say that, but I go back to the Taiwan example. Why is it not blowing up in Taiwan? And
because they probably gave each other antidotes before they released this virus. That's why they prepped themselves.
Again, there is, and if there is even let's take Eddie's theory and expand on it. If it is, and we know it, this is a dirty little fact we're going to bring out of that. But you're going to be amazed at what organization Taiwan was kicked out of. You start looking, folks, on this whole deal. Start asking questions. I hope everybody that's listening on HEMET News stay tuned. I'm getting so excited I can't even talk.
We'll get it out in a minute. Yeah.
Yes. Stay tuned.
You got mouth over. Take a sip of your coffee, Roy.
Yes, I know. I'm just the tinfoil hats. Just being around here is getting me too wound up on that.
That animal magnetism. Is
yes.
What it is.
But no, it is, and again, there's just we need to do that, and that's why I've had Dr. Kelly Victory on, because she's been a sane voice in all of this, and I really wish I don't even mind Fauci or whatever I call him, the sawed off guy, or Birx up there, but Trump should have somebody like Dr. Kelly Victory on there too, up there on the stage, giving that opinion of that or her take on it. She's a trauma surgeon, expert in preventing epidemic spreads and stuff like that. She's actually worked with it, not a scientist that's been playing with test tubes and stuff like Fauci. Fauci's great at what he does, and like these models, they could come up with a model that says, well, if you do this, X, Y, and Z is going to happen, or if you don't do this, But I mean, is the cure, worse than the disease? And that's where we all got to guard against this stuff.
That's right, because everybody's talking about that cure that they got out. That medicine's not really that great for you. So is it the virus that's killing you, or is it the medicine that they're giving you is going to kill you?
Or taking away, and I don't want to, or the LA sheriff banning your, you can't, let's just close all the gun stores over this, or, you can't go out, or they're threatening to shut off water and power down into LA to businesses that they don't deem necessary on this stuff, on and on and on. And again, like I've said, you tell me this, Eddie, tell me if I'm wrong, we got about a minute left or so. How do you, New York City, New Jersey metropolitan area, 10 people in 5 square miles is a whole different animal than Enid, Oklahoma. And how do you project? And Dr. Birx and Fauci said, we're basing this on what's happening in New York and New Jersey. Well, that sure as hell is not going to be like 98.7% of the flyover country of America between these coasts. Am I crazy or what?
No, you're just weird like I am. I agree with you, Roy.
We got to start bringing some sanity back into this stuff. That
I haven't heard of insanity for the last 2 weeks.
You got it. It is. I really, and I always try to look on the optimistic side. I really hope that we are going to start seeing a turnaround on this stuff, and things are going to start looking better, and we're going to start getting some good news out of that, or just some rational stuff on there. We got about a minute left. I'm going to let you wrap it up, Eddie.
Yeah, that's about it, Roy. You just about said it all there, bud. Hey, it's good being with you here again. I'm going to go ahead and end it with a little shout out to Mike Swagger, a.k.a. the one who just wrote this song for us. So there, you got your theme song. I'm going to give you mine. This is Eddie Jordan, the guy with the lazy eye, with HEMETnews.com and HEMET News on Facebook and YouTube.
drugs. But when I told them no, they started pushing and shove. I woke up on the ground with a nose full of blood. When I looked up, guess who it was? The crazy guy with the lazy eye, give a thumbs up. I asked him, hey, man, you see where they go? He said, better have all the cameras on the news. Now
Shut up, Mike Swagger.
There you go. You know you've arrived when you got your own song. That's that crazy guy with the ladies. Hi, Eddie Georgia, HEMET News. We'll do this again next Tuesday, and I love having you on the video. I think it works really great.
Hey, we figuring this out. We rednecking this hillbilly style, folks. Y'all have a good one. This is Eddie George, that weird, ugly, crazy guy with the lazy eye with HEMETnews.com, and I'm getting
1 minute.
And I am off your air.
You got it. There you go. I hope you enjoyed that. We got Eddie on the video cast coming in from his headquarters down there in HEMET. He runs a great page, HEMET News, on that, where you do that. I hope everybody stays tuned here in a few minutes. We're going to have Dr. Kelly Victory on the air, and she, again, we got a lot of stuff to talk about from her. We had her on Monday on that, man. There's been a lot of stuff that's been going on, this whole thing. Again, I'm trying
30 seconds.
I'm trying to stay off the conspiracy stuff, but again, every day I get up, I just get an ever increasing sinking feeling about what's going on with this whole stuff. But hopefully, Dr. Kelly Victory will be a ray of sunshine in all of this, as she always is.
All right, guys, here we go.
Phone apps. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station.
There we go. We're coming back in with that funky slide guitar music on Thankful Thursdays. We roll into KMET 1490 AM on that, as we do every Monday through Friday on that. We just had Eddie Georgia, HEMET News on that, and had some great conversation going on about what's going on with this whole coronavirus stuff going on. And, he has that same reaction to this stuff that we're really just don't like the whole tone of everything that's going on, of where we keep going. I mean, like I say, every day it just seems like we get a little bit less. We just keep sinking deeper into that hole. We don't see light at the end of the tunnel. They just keep moving the barriers backwards. They're trying to put out the fear stuff on that, when I think it's in a lot of cases it's unwarranted in this whole thing. But we're going to have Dr. Kelly Victory on here in a few minutes to update us. The last time she was on Monday. So I'm sure she'll have plenty to say on the events that have went on the past couple of days on this. I don't know. It's, we had the, Riverside County Sheriff's Deputy that worked at the Larry Smith Jail was passed away over complications of coronavirus on that. So condolences to his family on that. You can read the story on IE Newswire Daily on that and doing that. So I think we have her on the line on that. So we'll get right to it, because I'm sure there's lots of information. I know a lot of information I want to cover, and I'm sure there's a lot of things she would like to say too. We're going to bring you Dr. Kelly Victory, Facts Not Fear, on COVID-19 coronavirus. She was a trauma surgeon, a consultant to companies like Walmart, not only all around expert, just some good common sense on what's going on. Dr. Kelly Victory, welcome to IE Newswire Daily with Roy.
Hey, good to be back with you, Roy.
Man, it just seems, the info just keeps coming in day after day after day since we had you on Monday. I'm just going to give you the floor. Just what's your impressions that's happened since we last had you on Monday to where we're at right now?
Well, what I can tell you, Roy, is I have not changed my basic premise for all of this, which is that we are witnessing here the most unbelievable overreach and overreaction that I've ever seen in my lifetime in public health. which is not to say that, coronavirus, COVID-19, I'm in no way saying is a hoax or isn't real. It is, in fact, a novel coronavirus. It is, in fact, a bad virus. And when I say a bad virus, I mean that many, many, many people will get sick from it, and a number of people will end up becoming severely sick and or dying from it. All of that said, Roy, we face every single year in this country a seasonal outbreak of influenza. We've had other novel coronaviruses, including SARS and H1N1 in the most recent past. And people die of these things or become acutely ill from them every year. So I am really perplexed as to why our government and public health experts, or at least those public health experts who seem to be pulling the marionette strings, have had the impact that they've had and are doing the things they're doing, because it is far, far out of proportion to the actual risk.
I couldn't agree with more of what you're saying. And something that just it came across to me in the dominant media, which I've told people not to, or to try to tune out of. But this is from Time Magazine. I ran across this, and boy, this really got me thinking the other day when it came out. There's we're pretty sure most of the information this started in China, just about it, at the begin or at the end of last year, at the start of the flu season, whatever. There's an island with about 20 million people called Taiwan, which is right next to there. They have a lot of people that go into China to work every day, yada, yada, yada. So they've had this, and they've known about this since that time, back in November, December. They've had it go through their country. In the report in Time Magazine, they're saying 300 cases and 5 deaths in Taiwan of 20 million people. That is right in the ground zero epicenter of this stuff. Now, how does Taiwan not suffer through this stuff? China, Italy, now they're running this campaign in the United States, and 2.2 million deaths and 500,000 in that. And, well, if we didn't do this, da-da-da-da-da. How did Taiwan do that? And just yesterday, they ordered a recommendation that if you're outside, maybe stay 3 feet away, inside maybe 4.5 feet away, but it's just a recommendation. We're not shutting everything down. They haven't, and they've been dealing with this for a lot longer, or let's say, in my view, or that. What's your take on this?
Well, first of all, they're great questions. But first of all, we can never be totally certain about the numbers that we are getting out of other countries, and certainly not out of China at all. So we don't know about what their actual numbers are. All of that said, it is certainly possible that a large percentage of Taiwanese were already immune to this particular coronavirus because they'd already seen it and been exposed to it before, for example. We don't know when the outbreak actually began. We don't know the other things that are potentially protective of it. I think the best thing to do for most people is to stop looking at the, quote, numbers that are supposedly coming out of other countries, as I said, because we can't necessarily trust them, in all honesty, and we aren't sure how they are quantifying or qualifying those deaths. We now know, for example, that those huge numbers we saw coming out of Italy were not necessarily the same way that we are recording the deaths, meaning that although people had coronavirus when they died, a lot of the people that were marked as coronavirus deaths in Italy, Roy, actually died most likely of something else. They were people over the age of 75 or 80 who had significant other health issues. And so they would go down, in my book, as having died with coronavirus rather than from coronavirus. In other words, they had end-stage heart disease or end-stage liver disease or end-stage lung disease. They got coronavirus, but the thing that actually, should have been written on their death certificate was the other issue with their heart, their lungs, or their liver. So it's hard to really interpret those numbers. If you look just at the numbers in the United States, and I will continue to go back to this, as of this afternoon, we are somewhat around 5,800 deaths in the United States. I won't be surprised at all if I wake up tomorrow morning and that number is over 6,000. But let's put that in perspective. So far this influenza season, we've had 24,000 deaths from influenza, okay? So we've had, just under 250,000 cases, confirmed cases, quote unquote, of coronavirus so far this year. We've had 38 million cases of influenza in the United States. So let's just try to get these things in perspective, because the response continues to spiral far out of control and far out of it's an order of magnitude that extends far beyond the actual risk.
Yes, it is, again, and it was astounding to me of this, and this is in the Times article, and I will send you a link to it in that so you can look at it further. But up until 2016, Taiwan was allowed in the World Health Organization. All of a sudden, they were kicked out. Then even last year, they were not allowed to participate in the worldwide discussions of vaccines or something of this. Now, notwithstanding of what's going on, again, it's like you not questioning the numbers out of China. Now I'm questioning the numbers we're getting. We're getting from World Health Organization, this guy in Britain that made all the wild predictions that he's backing up on. It's hard to know who to believe in this stuff anymore.
You are exactly right, and that's why I'm saying I really think that the numbers we are getting out of other countries are somewhat suspect, and I don't trust the WHO further than I can spit, which for the record is not very far. So I don't trust the WHO. So I think people are best at trying to focus on what's going on in this country. And again, which is not to say that there aren't some very small pockets in the United States that are suffering significantly. I don't want any of your listeners to think, wow, she's not in tune to what's going on. I'm well aware that there are a handful, and when I say handful, I mean exactly that, 5 or fewer epicenters within the United States that are suffering right now. Elmhurst Hospital, for example, in New York. Elmhurst is the epicenter of the Chinese population in New York City, and they have been at or over capacity for some days now. But let's be reflective and say there are multiple hospitals within a 5 or 10 mile radius of Elmhurst that still have adequate capacity and can take overflow. So hospitals not infrequently go on what we call bypass or need to shut down and transfer patients to other facilities. I'm a trauma specialist. Every weekend when I was working in South Florida, my hospital would go on bypass for a minimum of some hours and sometimes up to 2 or 3 days where we'd say, we're out of beds or we're out of ICU beds or we're out of a certain other category of beds because we've had so many trauma patients. And so we would tell ambulances, you can't bring anything here other than something that we're going to be able to treat and street, something we can treat and get out of here, a sprained ankle or something, because we are out of beds. That's how hospitals work. We can't build every hospital for the worst case scenario because otherwise 99.9% of the time, those hospitals will be near empty or at half capacity and can't sustain themselves. So despite the fact that there are a handful of hospitals, maybe in Seattle, maybe in LA, maybe there's 1 or 2 in New York City, maybe one in Louisiana, there are hospitals all over the country that are empty right now, literally empty, where doctors and nurses are twiddling their thumbs, ventilators are not being used, ICUs are empty because we've faced this mandatory shutdown, and so the resources are there. We just have to look at this more on a national level, certainly on a statewide level, and stop focusing on the fact that 1 or 2 or 3 hospitals are having a panic attack in the middle of this viral outbreak.
Exactly right. And I mean, I almost jumped out of my chair. I think it was Dr. Birx, it might have been Fauci, the other day, I think it was yesterday, said, well, yeah, we're basing this model on New York City and New Jersey areas where we're basing all this modeling or stuff. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, you're applying this model or all these projections to Enid, Oklahoma, Waterloo, Iowa, all the, I mean, I'm thinking, how could you possibly, I mean, that is so 180-degree opposite of what is happening or how this would react in New York City, New Jersey metropolitan area to the fruited plains of the, United States. How could well, yeah, if you use that model on areas like that, like Enid, Oklahoma, and Waterloo, Iowa, etc., well, yeah, you can come up with some really wild numbers that have really no basis in a honest study, in my opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're exactly right. And furthermore, Roy, I'll tell you, when you look at the number of cases, let's just take another statistic that people quote every day. Oh, my God, we've got almost 250,000 cases in the United States. No, let's look at this. We've been following these cases now for almost 8 weeks. These people don't, it's not like these are zombies where once they become bitten, they go forward in perpetuity with an ever-growing mass of the afflicted. The people who got diagnosed with, say, coronavirus on February 1st have been well for 6 weeks. So the number of confirmed cases, a huge percentage of those people got it weeks and weeks ago, had the virus, either had no symptoms at all or got over it and don't have it. And in fact, they're actually immune to it now. It's not like it's a growing number of people, like you get infected with it, and then, you're a vampire and you go forward and everyone has this and stays with it. So many of the people get over it and are now have antibodies. Likewise, the number of ventilators. Once somebody goes on a ventilator, if God forbid they need to do that, they don't just stay on it forever. Within, I hate to tell you, but within a matter of days, one way or another, they get off the ventilator.
Yes.
Either they either get well and they get what we call extubated, they get off the ventilator, or unfortunately, they don't do well and they pass away. But one way or another, the ventilator isn't tied up, so it becomes available again. The numbers that are being reported act as if once that ventilator is in use, it's out of commission for the rest of time. And that's not how it happens.
Yeah, again, the stuff that goes on with a lot of this stuff is just absolutely crazy, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, we should have, and I don't want really, from my perspective, I don't want the government involved in this, but I mean, there should be a private company, and maybe I'm going to start one or something. Okay, we're going to stock emergency supplies like ventilators or whatever. So New York needs 5,000 of these right away, okay, we can ship them in there and supply them in there. That's how this stuff should be working, not every hospital have 6,000 ventilators that they're going to use 3 times a month, or I don't know what the number is, but, we're going to have such an overcapacity of ventilators the way we're going about it. They're going to be sitting over there in the corner, and then when you need them, you're going to turn it on and it's going to work because it hasn't been used in 3 years.
Exactly. In fact, here's Dr. Victory's business, idea, tip for anybody who's out there looking to start a small business. Figure out where you're going to store all this stuff after it's made. Okay? Because, the governor of Colorado, which is my home state, just ordered, asked for 10,000 ventilators. I'm thinking, for the love of God, what
yes.
to do what? To do what? We've had a total of 3,000 cases total in the state of Colorado. We've had 90 deaths. What the heck is he going to do with 10,000 ventilators? Waiting for the apocalypse, I assume. So, I suppose you can add that to stockpiling, toilet paper. I guess if you've got enough money, you stockpile ventilators. But we've really jumped the shark here. This is out of control, which is not to say, again, that there aren't a number of people who will end up being hospitalized. There are people who will become acutely ill. But the best thing we could do at this point, Roy, honestly, the very best thing that federal government could do, and it'll take them forever if they ever get this together, would be to have widespread testing for antibodies, to say, let's find out, if Kelly Victory's right, and actually a huge percentage of the population has already been exposed to and recovered from coronavirus. Because as soon as you can prove that you or I or anybody else has been exposed and has antibodies to this, we can let our guard down. We aren't at risk anymore. We can get out there and get back to work and get this country up and running. And we owe it to ourselves as a country to say, stop the panic, stop spending any more money on ventilators. For the price of one ventilator, you could test probably 10,000 people for the dang antibody and check and find out who's been infected, who's already gotten over this, is there still a real risk, and get this country up and running and back to work, because this is not a sustainable reaction. It's not sustainable. We are going to bring this country totally to a level where it's not recoverable, where we simply can't get back up off our knees again.
I think it was Tuesday. I think New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, that's Dad's Mario, but Andrew Cuomo said essentially the same thing. He said, maybe this shelter-in-place thing wasn't exactly the right thing to do across the whole state, yada, yada. And then he just kind of got off of that whole enchilada real quick on that. But, again, you have to look for those, at least I do, I look for those little nuggets of truth in there that they kind of spit out there and then they kind of gloss over on that. We got about a minute left. I'll wrap it up and let anybody else, everyone else, know anything you think they should be aware of pertinent going into the weekend.
Again, what I would say is I'm hoping that our government gets their act together and starts to see this for what it is. I would recommend that people continue to have faith. This has got to turn around. I do not believe that people need to be unduly alarmed about their own personal risk of getting this, unless they are severely otherwise, have a health issue. Keep the faith, get out there and exercise, walk, bike, get out and get some fresh air, turn the television off, for the love of God. In Joe Biden's words, put on the record player, turn on the record player, and truly we will get beyond this, I hope.
You got, hopefully we'll be able to have you back on Monday, because I'm sure by the time we get through the weekend, there's going to be a whole list of other events we're going to have to deal with on that. Thank you very much for the update, Dr. Victory. We really appreciate it.
Talk soon, Roy.
You got it. Man, I'm glad. That's why we're having her on at least a couple times a week. I'm really glad for a person like Dr. Kelly Victory to tell it like it is. Give her opinion, not back up when she knows she's right, or she believes in what she's saying. She's not letting anybody else intimidate her. Why I want to say that is I hope the vast majority, not only those listening to us on IE Newswire Daily, HEMET News, everywhere else is being shared, KMET, the mighty Met 1490. I really hope we get our resolve back and we start asking questions and we start demanding that. I'm going to go back and I want you to look at the China thing and just talk about the testing. Go back and look at what happened. I mean, not the Taiwan deal. Again, I just keep getting an ever-sinking feeling about what's going on. Why is Taiwan not allowed? Why were they kicked out of the World Health Organization like Kelly Victory? I wouldn't trust them, as far as I could spit, and she said she didn't spit very far, and I believe her on that. So again, I think we should be questioning everything of what's going on, of all of our officials, and holding them accountable. You do not want to let them strip away your rights. I mean, there is a legitimate time for that, but if there was a nuclear war or something going on, and something, some mass tragedy or something. But something like this, I mean, like we said, in 1968, the Hong Kong flu killed 100,000 in the U.S., 1 million worldwide, and we had about half of the population that we do now. So you extrapolate that numbers out to the population now. The Hong Kong flu, as in 1968 went on, we would have 200,000 die in the United States and 2 million worldwide. We got through that, but in the Hong Kong flu, when it jumped, it was the swine flu or H1N3 or whatever it was. That's what jumped to the animals and got us into the pigs and got us swine flu in the 90s, and we had into that. This stuff is always going to be around. We're going to have to deal with it. And the best way that I know, and I'm no doctor or give medical advice, is, as Dr. Victory said, the more people get it, get immune to it, goes through society. Most people do that. We're all immune to it. We build up immunity to it. All is well. Yes, as some, like she said, if you get on a ventilator and your lungs are filling up with fluid, you get like the pneumonia systems. Yeah, you're going to get off the ventilator one way or the other. You're either going to walk out of the hospital, or they're going to, which most people do, or they're going to roll you out, they're going to roll you out of the hospital. But you're not going to stay on that forever. It's either, this is either going to fix you or it ain't. And we have that, like we said, 40,000 die every year of the flu. 40,000 die in car accidents. We don't all of a sudden say, let's ban cars because you know what? When you hit that key, drive back out of your driveway or whatever and hit that road, in a heartbeat, you could be off this world earth. But we don't, the greater overall good that it does for everybody for having transportation, doing that and doing all the things, and the trucks, what if the truck driver says, I'm scared of, I might die in this truck, or or like the rhetoric going, or I might kill somebody driving this truck, so I better not drive it. Think about what we're doing. Sometimes, it would be great if we all live forever, but that has not been the case through all world history. We got to look at these things realistically, and we got to make choices that make sense. Sometimes they're tough choices. Sometimes they're not easy. Sometimes it causes pain to a select few, and that's very, very tragic in that instance. But, we got to look at the whole picture. We got to drive beyond the hood ornament, else we're going to crash. We're going to be back tomorrow on Fast Friday on that. We'll give you all the latest updates on coronavirus and maybe highlight some of the businesses and stuff that need our help at this time. Hopefully we'll have some more good news on this deal because heck knows we sure need some. So tomorrow till we come back on with Stephanie on Fast Friday, see ya.